Coming up on Network Africa. Alliance of Sahel states consisting of 3 junta-led countries for 5,000 troop military units. Israel ambassador to Nigeria speaks of strong ties between both countries, touting areas of agriculture, investment and job creation. Plus, Deputy Secretary General of the UN, Amina Mohammed, calls for action against terrorism in Africa. Hello and welcome to the program today. I'm Layo Olarinde here in Lagos, Nigeria. We begin here in West Africa, where Burkina Faso, Niger and Mali are set to join forces to create a 5,000-strong unit to fight jihadist violence that has plagued the region for years. The 3 nations are former French colonies where the military deposed civilian administrations in coups between the year 2020 and 2023. Following the coups, the 3 countries cut ties with France and formed a confederation, the Alliance of Sahel States, last year. This unified force is to have aerial, ground and intelligence means and a coordination system. Each of the junta-ruled states has been racked by jihadist attacks, allied with either Al-Qaeda or Islamic State for a decade in violence that governments have not been able to eradicate in spite of help from French forces. Israel's ambassador to Nigeria, Michael Freeman, has described the relationship between his country and Nigeria as very strong. Speaking on our breakfast program, The Morning Brief, Mr. Freeman called Nigeria a friend of Israel and said that there are various collaborations in play between the 2 countries, which range from security to agriculture.
Israel and Nigeria have got very, very strong bilateral relations. Nigeria is a strong friend of Israel, and we like to share with our friends and we like to work with our friends. We speak with Nigeria, we work with Nigeria, and we're always willing to share and work with our friends. Unfortunately, Nigeria understands the threats of terrorism and understands the threats of insurgency and kidnapping, as we have also understood that as well. And we share with Nigeria in many different areas. And one of them is obviously in the security realm. We have an iFair program, which is a program which takes young Nigerian innovators and entrepreneurs, and we work with them for a 6-month mentorship program with Israelis and Nigerian experts, and then we help take them to market, we help find them funding and investment, and we have created some very large and impressive companies and created thousands of jobs in Nigeria and huge investment, millions of dollars of investment from outside. We are working on agriculture, on the area fields of rice and on corn and on tomatoes and cucumbers and other areas to be able to grow greater crops in using less water with greater yields. We are working in tech. 45% of Israel's GDP is based on tech and based on human capital, and so we want to share that with Nigeria. So it's a huge, huge conversation.
Still about Nigeria, the former High Commissioner in Australia, Ambassador Ayola Olukani, describes the second presidency of U.S. President Donald Trump as a major historical landmark in the U.S., which has implications for the world at large. Ambassador Olukani advised the current Bola Tinubu administration to appoint ambassadors to the U.S. who are competent to engage the Trump administration in a way that would promote Nigeria-U.S. relations.
First, let me say that the second coming of President Donald Trump is a major point, historic landmark in the history of the United States, and also, of course, implicitly in the history of the world as well. A new Trump administration is in town. The current administration must and should quickly put in the process of appointing ambassadors. We need a substantive ambassador in Washington to be able to engage the Trump administration, so that some ordinary tragic affairs interim will not be asked to go to the Nigerian desk. So when our ambassador wants to see this new Secretary of State, it will become a truly Nigerian ambassador, fully accredited, with plenipotentiary powers to the United States of America.
Joining us now for more on a wide range of discussion concerning Nigeria and its relations with the world is the Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, NIIA, Professor Ehosa Osage. Professor Osage joins us virtually from Lagos. Hello, Professor. Thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much, Network Africa. Thank you.
Well, let's begin with the fact that about 109 embassies, Nigerian embassies, we know, are without an ambassador at this point in time. And I believe you heard Ambassador Olukani just there speaking about Nigeria having a competent person in Washington, D.C. to be able to engage with the new Trump administration. Without a representation of Nigeria in these countries, how can the country really engage other countries and have a grand standing in international space?
Well, thank you. I don't think the question is without, because we do have on ground. There are diplomatic missions, Nigerian diplomatic missions in the United States. If what you mean is we don't have an ambassador yet to the United States, yes, that's correct. But that's a process that is ongoing, and we recognize, the importance of that. And I think that the government and will do what is necessary to do.
Now, Nigeria has also been appointed as a partner nation in the BRICS group of countries. Does Nigeria's partner status in this group clash, or is it at odds with being a non-permanent member of the UN? And how do you think this affects our relations with the West?
Well, there are many ways to answer the questions that you have posed, 3 in 1 actually. The first is that, it does not in any way affect Nigeria's aspiration to become a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. If anything, it's actually a boost for it because it strengthens multilateral connections and foundations. Now, somewhere, somehow, I think that there is a mistaken perception that considers BRICS to be an anti-Western, outfit. It's like once you say BRICS Plus. By the way, it's BRICS Plus now because many more countries have joined BRICS, and therefore it's now called BRICS Plus. I don't think that is the sole essence of BRICS Plus. It is not an anti-West outfit. It is rather a coalition that has the Global South, at the center. The Global South has always desired, platforms that allow the Global South as a whole to bring its views together and to become a strong voice, and that's one of the things that BRICS represents. So if being a member of BRICS, not even a partner, has not made India or Brazil anti-West, why do we think, Nigeria's membership will make Nigeria anti-West? It's just an extension of the multilateral diversity that, global relations require at this time. The more, the merrier, actually. But the Global South needs something that speaks for it. It's not only BRICS. There are other groups, ECOWAS, AU, and all of those groups, they speak for the Global South. But right now, BRICS Plus is a formidable platform.
Now, talking about becoming a full partner country in the BRICS Plus and also looking at being permanent members of the UN Security Council, are there limitations to this, and how can we position ourselves better to be able to fit into that status?
No, well, the clamor for a permanent seat in the Security Council of the UN requires a great deal of mobilization, a great deal of hard work, and a great deal of leadership. And this is what Nigeria is doing in all of these evolving scenarios. Nigeria, has become partner in BRICS. Nigeria is part of the AU. Nigeria has been invited to the G20. Nigeria has been, so Nigeria's growing power very clearly positions Nigeria for the kinds of roles that we expect to have in a reformed UN system. And don't forget that BRICS is also in the advocacy for the UN reforms and the reforms of multilateral organizations, including the Bretton Woods institutions, the World Bank and the IMF and so on. So the more, Nigeria is able to build coalitions and alliances along these lines, the stronger its foundations would be for the sharp goal when it comes to making the UN permanent representative seat.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Professor Ehosa Osage. Thank you for your time on the program.
Thank you very much.
We'll continue our stories. In northern Mali, a Tuareg rebel alliance has released a Spanish man kidnapped in North Africa on January 17. Local media in Spain reports that an Islamist group kidnapped the man, Gilbert Navarro, in southern Algeria and took him to Mali, though the Foreign Ministry did not confirm this information. According to a spokesperson of the Azawad Liberation Front, the former hostage will be spending the night in protective custody with them before being transferred to Algerian authorities. Another spokesperson stated on the X platform that the FLA had freed Mr. Navarro, who is in good health, and that more details will follow. The Deputy Secretary General of the United Nations, Mrs. Amina Mohammed, is sounding the alarm that Africa has been and is the epicenter of global terrorism. Addressing the UN Security Council, she added that Al-Qaeda and Islamic State affiliates have spread into the West African coastal countries, with violent attacks soaring by more than 250% in 2 years. She's calling now for concerted efforts in Africa and internationally to address the situation.
Africa has tragically remained the epicenter of global terrorism. In all its forms and manifestations, terrorism is the most significant threat to peace, security and sustainable development across the continent today. Sub-Saharan Africa now accounts for nearly 59% of all terrorism-related deaths globally. The Sahel is ground zero for one of the world's most brutal crises. For 3 straight years, terrorism-related deaths have soared past 6,000, making up more than half of all global fatalities. In this deadly surge, Burkina Faso is now leading the world in terrorism deaths with a staggering 68% increase, and with little support to help reverse this trend. Al-Qaeda and Islamic State affiliates have spread their deadly tentacles to West Africa's coastal countries, with violent attacks soaring by more than 250% in just 2 years. Let us make no mistake, at this rate, West Africa's future hangs in the balance. Most terrifyingly, the tactics of these groups are evolving at a rapid and alarming pace. Terrorist networks are now pooling resources, finances, fighters, and expertise, while sharpening their capabilities with new technologies, including unmanned aerial systems. As terrorism evolves, so must we. Countering terrorism must continue to innovate with an approach that holds the respect for human rights and the rule of law at its core, and an outcome that addresses the conditions conducive to the spread of terrorism.
Welcome back to the program. Kenya will now allow citizens of several African countries to visit without needing prior authorization. Last year, the country introduced a visa-free policy that required most visitors to apply online for authorization before leaving their country. But the introduction of the Electronic Travel Authorization (ETA), which replaced the visa requirement for all visitors, was criticized as a visa under another name. On Tuesday, a cabinet statement said the ETA would be dropped for all African countries except Somalia and Libya due to security concerns. The country says this is part of its efforts to support a policy of open skies, promote tourism, regional integration, and ease travel across the continent. Ethiopia and Rwanda have sent their condolences to the people of Turkey following a deadly fire disaster at a hotel in a ski resort in northern area of the country. A statement from Ethiopia's foreign ministry expressed the country's profound sadness at the loss of lives caused by the fire. Rwanda's President Paul Kagame also empathized with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and the people of Turkey. The fire broke out at around 3:27 a.m. local time in the restaurant area of the ski resort hotel, quickly engulfing the building, killing at least 76 people and injuring 51 others. Turkey is observing a day of national mourning today. We're back in Nigeria, where the Lagos State Christian Pilgrims Welfare Board has conducted medical and administrative screening for the second batch of 2024 intended pilgrims who will be traveling by February 7th. The Special Advisor on Christian Matters, Mr. Bukola Adeleke, says the exercise is a major priority that must be carried out before the airlifting. He is encouraging intending pilgrims to be of good character, obey all rules and regulations when they get to the Holy Land, and pray for the country.
The Lagos State Commissioner for Environment and Water Resources, Mr. Tokumbo Wahab, and his team arrived at Adinyon Waterworks in Iju area of the state to inspect the ongoing water project. They moved around the state.
The second batch of the Lagos State 2024 pilgrimage exercise converged on the premises of the Lagos State Christian Pilgrims Welfare Board, Ikeja, for medical screening, exercise, and collection of material needed for the trip to Jerusalem. They are grateful to God for the opportunity to witness the first screening exercise in the year 2025. The first point is the confirmation of names on the list and proceed to the medical screening room to know your health status. The State Christian Pilgrims Welfare Board Secretary explains the reason for the exercise.
A lot of us were scared because of the war that was happening in Jerusalem. I want to let you know that there is peace in Jerusalem. Over there, there's a lot of cold. And I must let you know, very, very importantly, that you must be prepared, because a lot of us were not prepared when we left, when we went for this first trip.
The representative of the Federal Ministry of Health speaks on the importance of obtaining a yellow card.
Our vaccine for yellow card is for life. But if you have changed your passport, maybe your passport is expired. You know we have 5-10-year passports. The moment you change your passport, you need to change the yellow card.
After the screening, the intending pilgrims pick up their welfare materials and commend the state government for its annual steadfastness in ensuring the safety of all pilgrims.
Pilgrimage is something that I've been trusting God for. Like I've been reading the scripture, even when I was a little child. I keep wondering, is this thing, how will there be an opportunity for me to see these things? Because if you read God's scripture, you have to believe, even though you have not seen. But someone having the privilege to travel to Jerusalem and see this thing, have the experience. When you come back, you tell someone, wow, I've seen this thing. God bless Lagos State government, including our president. They've done too well for having humanity in their heart.
To be a time for me to just set myself apart, to pray, to pray and to thank God for his protection over my life and my family.
The special advisor on Christian matters says the pilgrimage is an opportunity for individuals to actually visit where Jesus Christ was actually born.
We are educating them how to behave when they get to the Holy Land of Jordan and Jerusalem. That not only they are representing themselves, they are also representing the state, Lagos State, that they are representing Nigeria, and they should be a good ambassador to body of Christ, because they are going there to pray for themselves. They are going there to pray for Lagos State. They are going there to pray for Nigeria.
In the next 2 weeks, these intending pilgrims will be visiting the Jordan and Jerusalem to have a first-hand experience of the Holy Land.
South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa has addressed the World Economic Forum happening in Davos, Switzerland. He says the government of national unity in his country is making South Africa a more attractive destination for investment. In his special address, the president highlights the rapid formation of the GNU, which brought together 10 political parties within 30 days, in contrast to the lengthy process in some European countries. He also called for greater cooperation with the G20 economic bloc to promote global economic prosperity, particularly in addressing the challenges posed by climate change. South Africa is the first African nation to hold the G20 presidency for the year.
We need to leverage private capital and use innovative forms of finance, as well as taxation, to raise additional resources for sustainable development in various countries in the global south. Now, global finance institutions should help to de-risk and support more financing for emerging and developing countries. We need to support country initiatives that are aimed at addressing climate change, such as the Just Energy Transition Partnership that South Africa has entered into with a number of countries of the global north. A number of other countries followed suit and also structured their own initiatives. But these need to be financed. As we accelerate the transition to low-carbon economies in a manner that is just and inclusive, we must also at the same time recognize the damage that climate change has already done and will continue to wreak around the world.
Still in South Africa, the Consumer Price Index, CPI inflation, increased slightly in December, rising to 3% from 2.9% in November. As part of its year-end review, Stats SA also reported that the average inflation rate for 2024 was 4.4%, a decrease from the 6% average in 2023. Inflation for food and non-alcoholic beverages edged up to 2.5%, up from 2.3% in November. The annual inflation rate for bread and cereal products remained steady at 6.7%, although prices for some items, including brown bread, saw monthly declines, down 0.6% between November and December. And that's it on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.